talked about the budget. There was no budget. You know what I mean? Like Canada, one of the only countries on planet Earth without a budget. You know, North Korea, no budget. Canada, no budget. Afghanistan and the Taliban, they got a budget, but we don't have one. But here we are. Okay. So we had the throne speech.
Yes.
Okay? We had the throne speech. And we're going to give it to you the way the media gave it to you. But there's a clip at the end that nobody showed you. And we're going to show the clip at the end that no one showed that is completely telling. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's great.
We had to dig for it. It took us a while. We were digging for a while this morning to actually find the clip. It exists on video, but it's not the one you saw on CBC. It's not the one that Poilievre put on his Twitter. It's not the one that Scheer put on his Twitter. It's not the one that Carney put on his Twitter. It's the real one that happened. How business actually got done after the grandstanding was done.
Or didn't get done.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So
Here we go. Our king.
We witnessed a moment steeped in deep Canadian tradition and lots of political significance. King Charles III came to the Senate chamber on Parliament Hill to read the speech from the throne.
Members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the
I like Carney
backdrop
sitting
of
by him like
international
a kid at Santa Claus.
no nation
Right.
could live unto itself.
Subservient position there. Smaller chair.
It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. As the anthem reminds us, the true North is indeed strong and free.
Oh, it gets better. King's going to set the table for this.
Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorized by Parliament.
Here we go. It's the roll.
May you honor the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
There we go. The profound trust to appropriate the funds straight from the king. Even he knows it's important. I bet you the royal family has a budget, but so that was the marching orders, right? And Carney's sitting there, just groveled up to him, just in the little chair,
Like
lower than the king,
Yeah.
right? Listening to his marching orders, right? Everyone's dressed up in their costumes and their medals and their garbs and their headdresses.
What I find interesting is, okay, the king's giving the speech from the throne. He's telling you must appropriate the funds, but he starts off the colonial that he is saying, we are on unceded land. Yet every frickin' treaty that you read, it says, these tribes have ceded the land in perpetuity to the queen and her descendants for eternity, basically, like forever and ever. So it is ceded land, and they lie you with these land acknowledgement things. It's unceded land. Like, no, 100%. Yeah, we have a written contract. It's ceded land.
Different
anyway,
rabbit hole.
different rat hole, but just pisses me off. Here we go. All right.
Okay,
All right.
and Poilievre, he's going to act right indignant about this throne speech. Oh, he's on your side, people. He's going to bring it home for you. Here we go. Here he is, right?
And before I begin, let me thank my Deputy Leader, Melissa Lanceman. We join today in thanking His Majesty for coming to Canada and delivering the throne speech, reinforcing our ancient British liberties, a parliamentary system that goes back 800 years, a system that has served Canada well and has been the foundation of what I love to call the Canadian promise, that anyone who works hard gets a great life in a nice, affordable house on a safe street. That's the promise that we as Conservatives ran to restore, and it's why we were able to get 2 million more votes and 24 more seats. We inspired a lot of people that we would fight for that Canadian promise.
Yeah, they're going to fight. And watch the fight, people.
forward
I'll show you the fight.
And we were looking for
Elbows
that promise
up,
and
wait
that
for the
hope
fight.
in the speech today. We did see a lot of the right slogans and political talking points, but no clear plans to get it done. One slogan dealt with controlling government spending, but there were no specific savings to roll back the morbidly obese Liberal government's costs. We saw promises about getting things built, but no mention of oil and gas or pipelines. Pipelines are, of course, the thing we most need to build. Didn't get one mention. Nor did they mention getting rid of the anti-energy laws that have kept our resources in the ground. C-69, the no development law. C-48, the shipping ban. The energy cap. The electric vehicle mandate. All of these things were left out of the speech altogether. No specific plans to get anything done, even though, as the Prime Minister has said, we are in a crisis to break our dependence on the American economy. They mentioned crime, but refused to say that they would repeal the Liberal catch and release bail law, C-75, or the house arrest law, laws that have allowed rampant chaos and crime to overtake our once tranquil streets. No mention of overcoming the opioid crisis.
Oh, he sounds really upset.
And replacing tax-funded
Probably
drugs
wants
and
to work all
legalization
summer to resolve
with
this, right?
treatment and
He
recovery.
doesn't have a seat.
No mention of real plans
When's that
to
by-election
get
happening?
taxes under control by reducing the cost of government. So we're here to turn the government's talking points into real plans. We pledge to work with the government to repeal the anti-energy law, C-69, repeal the energy cap, the electric vehicle mandate, the offshore shipping ban. Let's get our pipelines building. Let's get our goods to markets other than the United States. We're here to propose cuts to bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and corporate welfare so that we can bring down taxes, debt, and inflation. Let's repeal the catch and release laws so that we can restore safety to our streets. Let's invest in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free.
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's so.
All right.
We got the big speech from the king. We got the leader of the opposition without a seat, complaining from the sidelines about how bad it was, all the things missing in it. Okay. And so that speech comes down May 27th.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's important to understand the timeline here. May 27th, that speech comes down. Okay. And then on June 2nd, after Poilievre, renounces the speech and says that there's so much stuff missing into it, they're going to fight for your rights.
Yes.
It's like, Scheer proposes an amendment to the speech requiring a budget to be released before the summer session. And the important part is to know is, like, when is that summer session? I believe that summer session's scheduled to end on June 18th. So it's like just think what they're asking for a second. It's like, I demand that I want a budget tabled on June 2nd. I want it by June 18th, right? And let's just listen to and it made headlines, right? Because the motion passed. The motion passed. And it just made headlines. So let's listen to them about their back and forth, about all the sound clips. Some of it you might have heard on the media before we get to the one you didn't hear on the media. But here we go.
Mr. Speaker, Parliament demanded a budget from this Liberal government. Last night, a Conservative motion passed calling on the Prime Minister to table a budget this spring. The Liberals are asking Parliament to approve $500 billion in Liberal spending with no budget. Despite promising to spend less and cap government spending at 2%, they've increased it by 8%. Single moms, seniors, small business owners must budget before they spend. Parliament wants these Liberals to do the same. Will the minority Liberal government listen to the majority in this House and table a budget immediately?
Whoa. He sounds so serious, doesn't he?
Talk. Well, let's hear the rest. This is
Mr.
good.
Speaker,
Let me get my friend Kelly on
this
there.
week was a great week for the London Knights. It was a greater week for the country of Canada.
Let's deflect. Let's talk about a junior hockey team instead.
Every First Minister in Canada, from Quebec, from the provinces, from the territories, Government of Canada agreed on a plan to build Canada strong. One Canadian economy out of 13. That's what the province comes before.
The honourable member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Thanks for the update, but what about a budget? Canadians deserve real fiscal management, not excuses or fact-free talking points. And here's some of the facts. Liberal consultant spending is expected to rise 35% to $26 billion, breaking their promise to cut down on consultants. Fact. Wow. Liberals promised $20 billion in elbows up U.S. tariffs, but later dropped them with no regard to affected Canadian workers or fiscal impacts. Fact. The majority of this chamber voted last night for a spring budget. Fact. On what date would the Liberals face the facts and table a budget for their $500 billion in new spending?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the First Minister has agreed on a plan to build this great country. Stand up to Donald Trump. Fact. That's right. Mr.
Stand up to
Speaker,
Trump.
The government of
Forget about a budget. We're standing to
is
Trump.
imposing tariffs that cause maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada. Fact. On over $60 billion of U.S. exports to Canada. Fact. Raised over $1.7 billion already. Fact, fact, fact.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Oh, Kelly.
$73 billion spent while Parliament was shut down by this government. A spending package of $500 billion with a record $26 billion for Liberal-friendly consultants like McKinsey, and no oversight or scrutiny from Parliament. Well, this House has had enough. Last night, the House passed our Conservative motion calling on the Prime Minister to table a spring budget. Will the Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and table a budget immediately so Canadians in this Parliament can have the transparency we deserve?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of last night's motion. But what Canadians deserve, what Canadians deserve, what Canadian businesses deserve.
He took note. He took some notes on their last night's mention. And that's our good friend Kelly McCauley from Edmonton West, who still drives, like he still runs away whenever he sees me coming. Because for those who've attended the boot camp, there was one special boot camp where we locked him and James Cumming in a room and just let them have it about how they were going to lose the election because we told them they were lazy.
Yes.
They were lazy. Like, we had all of their social media stats pulled up on a big screen. They thought they were coming in to present about selling to the government, but none of the entrepreneurs in the room wanted to sell to the government. Like, we didn't want any of that. Yeah. We just wanted to show them to their face how lazy they were and why they were going to keep losing elections because their marketing strategy was lazy.
And, let me just think back to that election. Let's see who won that election. Justin Trudeau
exactly.
won that election.
Yeah.
Because
there
lazy.
You go, Kelly. You remember that? I hope you see this clip because you remember that day where I told you you're going to lose? You didn't just lose that one. You lose the next one. You lost the one after that, too. That's what it was, right?
So he's a perpetual loser.
That's right. And I said, well, I won my seat. Yeah, great. But the election was over before it even got before they started even tabulate the votes in Alberta. So, and the Prime Minister took note because that was the thing. It's like, the Liberals are forced to release the budget. There's a motion. And, I was telling you, Trevor, it's like, or what? They have to release a budget or what?
Right? No consequences. There's absolutely no consequence to that vote. So they passed a motion. Who cares?
That's right. They passed a motion and they made you think that it was serious because it could have been that motion's not a confidence vote. Yeah. So if they don't deliver a budget, nothing happens. And just think about the timeline of that. It's like they don't have a budget. They weren't planning on delivering a budget. And on June 2nd, you tell them that we need a budget by June 18th. By June 18th. And it passed. There was also some stuff out there that made you think that, the Liberals don't show up and the Conservatives do. Okay. And so I have the actual count from that. I have the actual count from that vote. And it passed 166 yes to 164 no. Okay. So there was all 164 Liberals said no. Okay. But four of the Liberals were what we call paired. So in other words, they had pre-agreed to say, I'm not showing up for work today. And they had pre-agreed with a member of the opposition to say, I'm going to vote with my party and you're going to vote for your party. So in other words, we're not even going to listen to any of the debate. We just foregone conclusion. We're not showing up for work today. Let's just vote along party lines and we'll settle it that way. And there was one no-show. So there was one Liberal MP who was not paired and was not in attendance. Okay. But that gets the vote down to 164 no. Okay, but even if that one, the Liberal, had showed up, it still only would have been 165. Okay, the Conservatives, on the other hand, they voted yes. 137 of them voted yes. 3 of them were paired off with the Liberals. Okay, and if you want to see it, like, you can actually just go on to the government website and check all these, and I encourage you to do so because it shows it's. We're going to show you one part of the government website that's kind of hilarious, but 137 of the Conservative voted to table this budget, this ridiculous motion on June 2nd that says, I demand it right now by June 18th, okay? 3 of them were paired off. 4 of the Conservatives were absent, missing in action. 4 of them, they weren't paired off. They weren't there, didn't vote, didn't cast their vote. Go look at the official government website. They didn't cast their vote, right? And so these are the people that, they're going to bring it home for you. I've been telling Kelly McCauley in West Edmonton that he's not hasn't bringing anything home, and we're just going to keep losing with that level of effort. But here we go. So, and then the Bloc, they had 21 yeses, and they had 1 paired. So they were the other one paired off with one of the Liberals. Okay, the NDP, all 7 of them actually did show up to work. They showed up to work and they voted to table a budget. And Elizabeth May, she voted to table a budget. She cast her 1 vote, so they had a 100% show up rate between the 7 NDP and the 1 Green. Okay, so that gives you 166 that voted to table the budget by June 18th, and 164 that said not. Okay, now I just want you to recognize the hilarity of them. The work schedule here. That the fact that there are 8 people who are absent and paired, so kind of let's say they called in for sick for work, right? And then you have 5 that are absent that didn't really have a backup plan. They didn't pair off with anybody at all. They didn't even arrange it. They're just kind of, for all intents and purposes, they're no-shows here. 5 of them. No-shows. Let's just see, these are the people that you're putting your faith in to make it, my view is there's a life raft and you got to get on it because no one's coming to save you. Mm-hmm. But I want to show you how many days these are missing. So I want to put up the calendar. This is the sitting calendar. We were looking at it here. This is the sitting calendar, House of Commons sitting calendar for 2025. Nothing in January, nothing in February, nothing in March, nothing in April. Now, okay, they're campaigning.
Prorogued.
Yeah,
prorogued.
Campaigning. So Kelly McCauley's going out to visit the seniors' homes to collect the same votes as last year. Not saying anything online that might change the minds of someone in Eastern Canada, but, just collecting the votes. Okay. In May, this is where we are now. First day of sitting is the 26th. The throne sitting was on the 27th. Okay. And they're going home here. So let's say maybe it was by June 20th. Okay. Latest. They're going home June 20th. Okay. When are they planning to come back? Okay. Not until September 15th. 3 months. They're going home for 3 months.
3 months.
No,
wow. That's a nice vacation, even though they had most of 2025 off so far.
This is their plan. Mm-hmm. And the question that you need to ask yourself, was it more important to preserve their vacation or more important to fight for a budget?
Whoa. They said they wanted to bring it home. They wanted elbows up, fight for Canadians, beat Trump. So, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. And I think that, they really, 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 really did want to help Canadians. However...
Okay. They wanted to. Let's go with that. They wanted to. This is just a scheduling nuisance. They really wanted to do this. Okay. Yeah. They really wanted to.
But rules is rules.
That's right. For perspective, that's 73 days sitting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's 73 days. Okay. Normally, I believe in a normal year, 125 to 135 days they'd be sitting. So 73 working days that they'd actually be sitting in Parliament that we're paying them for. And out of 73, they only got to be there 73. 13 of them aren't there. So 13 of them aren't there. Okay. Wow. I haven't taken, this is.
Well, hang on a second. This was on June 4th, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
On the
7.
second was the vote.
Second was the vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like 5 days in to getting back to work.
This is the second week.
Yeah.
They had a rough weekend.
I guess.
The second week
Was
getting
it
back
playoffs?
to work. 13 of them are not there.
What's going on?
13 of them are not there. Whether they're paired off or whether they're not, there's 13 of them absent, not voting on this issue. You can go on, check it yourself. And they only got to work 73 days in this calendar year, which is the lowest number of sitting parliament days, get this, since 1937.
That's a long time ago.
75.
The funny thing is, Josh, like the people that we work with, we're the 4%ers. We're trying to find more days a week that we can work, more hours in a day that we can get stuff done. And these people are looking to reduce the amount of days they get to work and how many hours they have to work.
Yes.
When we're the opposite, we're like, man, I wish there was more hours in the day. I wish there were more days in the week where we can get stuff done. I wish we could do this. And every time a long weekend comes, which we seem to be getting a new one every other year, some kind of new holiday, we're missing so much work. And these people are like, it's too bad I have to go into work today.
It's true. What did we just talk about in the morning meeting today? What did I say? I saw my calendar, and what did I tell the team?
I'm available those days.
There was 3 Saturdays on the calendar. There was one right at the end of June. Mm-hmm. There was one at the
August.
In July. There was the 4th Saturday in July, because a lot of times I'm out of town, but this time I'm in town. The 4th week in July. It's like I'm working on Saturday. Like I'm working that day, and I might as well work on the Saturday, the last Saturday in June, because like I'm going to Dubai on Sunday. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. Like I can work the Saturday, no big deal. And and then I was off on Saturday for the August long weekend. I was like, put it on the calendar. That just happened this morning. Just happened this morning in front of the team. I was like, team, give me my meetings. I want to do my regular 4 meetings that day, right? We need to get the clients on there. We need to see them. These people need, I don't want them waiting too long for their meetings. So we just put that on today. But these guys, 73 days that they're going to sit this year. Lowest since 1937. Okay. So they're trying to tell you. And let's see what the NDP said. They saw this and they said, okay, now they're really talking tough. And this is important. So let's look at what the NDP told you here. So this is Ron Davies.
Bonjour tout le monde, Alexandre Baudry, je suis avec le chef du NPD.
Let's go back. It's right here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. Today, Donald Trump doubled tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. This is a reckless move that will hurt workers and industry on both sides of the border.
All Donald Trump.
Today, I note that
Trump's
Labor,
fault.
the FCM, and the Chambers of Commerce have called on this government to take meaningful action to protect jobs and the industry. Prime Minister Carney has announced before that he would allocate all of the monies from the countervailing tariffs to affected workers, and yet to date, we have not seen any meaningful announcement from this government to protect workers who will lose their jobs or Canadian industry. New Democrats are calling on this government to take a number of swift measures. First, we want them to bring in emergency reforms to the employment insurance program.
Emergency.
Second, we want to make the use of Canadian steel mandatory in all government infrastructure projects and a centerpiece of the One Canada economy legislation. And third, we'd like to see tax incentives to private businesses to encourage them to use Canadian-made products.
What we think is a bomb.
The second thing I want to announce today is that New Democrats met in caucus this morning, and we decided that we are going to be voting no to the throne speech.
Bang. He says they're going to vote no to the throne speech. Now, the Andrew Scheer's motion saying that we demand a budget on June 2nd, we demand that you release that budget by June 20th, was a nothing burger. It was a nothing burger because the question was, or what? Mm-hmm. The throne speech, if they reject the throne speech and they vote the throne speech down, that's a confidence vote. That's a confidence vote. And you know what that means? If you vote down the government there, guess what's happening in July? They're all canceling their summer vacations, and they're going out, knocking on some doors. And this time, probably the coffers are all empty. So who's paying for the flyers and lawn signs? They're paying out of their own pocket this time.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday, and it came to the obvious conclusion. They feel that their summer vacation and their plans that they've already done, I'm going to Cuba, I'm going to wherever, I'm going to take a vacation. That's more important than going to work for you, working hard for you. I'm going to change things for you. No, it's all horse manure. They don't want to do anything that is going to put them out for the summer, because they would have to, you're right, they'd have to pay for their own lawn signs. All of the coffers are diminished. They're not doing any fundraising. They wouldn't have enough time, and it would cost millions of dollars in volunteer work for Elections Canada and all of that. And I think they just decided, you know what, we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like what these are the news clips that you saw. This is what you saw, is you saw King Charles in the throne speech. You saw Andrew. You saw Pierre Poilievre come out after and condemn the throne speech, was missing a bunch of stuff. You saw Andrew Scheer saying, "I want a motion to demand a budget." Okay. You saw Ron Davies come out here and say, like, "We're voting this throne speech down." That's what you saw. Now I'm going to show you the clip they didn't show you. The media didn't show you. No one's going to refer to. In fact, you can't even find it on the YouTube channels from anybody. I had to dig through the CPAC, almost 5 hours of material to find the moment where they threw you all under the bus and said, "Forget about accountability. We're going home." And here it is. Like, this is how it actually happens. This is the procedure of how it actually happens. Okay. Here we go.
The member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There have been discussions among the parties, and if you seek it, I believe you'll find unanimous consent for the following motion: that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, A, the address be engrossed and forwarded to His Majesty the King; B, an address be presented to Her Excellency the Governor General, praying that Her Excellency will
deliver
be
the budget
pleased
to the King.
Transmit to His Majesty the King and
we're going to deliver the throne speech to the King.
Which the Commons of Canada in Parliament assembled adopted in reply to His Majesty's speech at the opening of the first session of the 45th Parliament, and C, the address be engrossed and presented to Her Excellency the Governor General by the Speaker.
All those opposed to the honourable
Who's
members
opposed?
Moving the motion.
I'm going to pause this right here. Look who's just sitting. See, Andrew Scheer. Like, I just want you to look at all those empty seats. Now they're actually who actually opposes the throne speech. First of all, most of them have already gone home.
They're gone.
After, Don Davies says this in the morning, saying we're going to vote against it, they're not even there in the evening when it comes time to object to it. You'd have to object to it, which would force a vote, and then they could vote it down. They're not even in attendance. Look at all the empty seats. And look who is there. See Scheer? Scheer is right there. He's right there
talking. Looks like he's talking to Mark Garrettson there.
He's probably planning where they're going for dinner after.
Yeah.
They're probably, what's your plan for this summer? Because they're certainly not even thinking about opposing that motion. So right now the speaker is going to ask them if anybody opposes the motion, and in which case it would force a vote.
Say nay. Agreed.
Silent.
The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay.
Complete
Carried.
silence. Carried with unanimous consent. That throne speech, for all their grandstanding, was carried with unanimous consent. Not one of them, not one person of the 343 members of Parliament stood up and even said, "No, it's not good enough. I want a budget." Not a single one. In fact, most of them they didn't even care enough even to stay there for when they were going to be asked. They've already gone home, even though they're only working 73 days this year.
Well, 72.
70. Like, that's it, people. That's it. And the point of this is, like, most people are thinking that if their guy gets in, that there's there's a path coming. It's like, that's how broken the system is. You know, a bunch of people who only have to show up 73 days, you know, they're going to have 13 of them are going to be absent, and they're not even going to be there the entire day. And then when it comes time to actually act on all the things that they said when the cameras were rolling, when the CBC shows up and when CTV shows up, they're not even there. They had no intention of doing anything about that.